Stay right there. What are you waiting for? Kill him! Kill them both! No, wait a minute. Is it money you're after? I'll give you as much as you want.
May the saints forgive you, because I won't.
Yo, Monty, what is up?
Hello. So good to see you. Good to be back.
I'm really glad that you're back. I feel like you were true homie, true ride or die, stuck it out with me from the very beginning, all our technical issues, which were really my technical issues. But then we actually put out like 2 really strong episodes, one on JJK, which is neither of our favorite series, but I think we still made it a cool episode and we gave it like a life that actually the series doesn't even have, but I think we actually made an entertaining episode on it. And then we did an incredible episode on Freerin, which I'm very proud of, and multiple people have commented how great it is, including friend of the show Bicky. And so I just I'm glad that you were willing to ride or die back and like come back and and continue our project, because a lot of people have started in the occult sphere anyway. This might have been true on YouTube when we were recording before, but in the occult sphere, a lot of people, since I started doing it, I'm not saying they copied me or anything, maybe, but they definitely started noticing the anime and occult sort of speculative kabbalah that you let me do and that we were talking about. And so I noticed that a lot of them have actually started this year or even like late last year to do it, which is fine. But I think it's interesting for us to do kind of series that are, I like that we have done, and I like all our episodes to be clear, but I like that we have done more art anime, lesser. It's not necessarily the most popular in terms of Twitter consciousness, but actually I think that is a mark of taste, to be honest. So I'm proud of us, and I'm really excited that you came back.
Thank you. And if you're not comfortable saying it, then I will. People are ripping us off. The anime, speculation and hauntology that we're doing, the threshold canon that we're building, is something that's like really cool and interesting. And I don't blame anyone for stealing it, because we're living in this medium where first off, everything like obviously like Neon Genesis is a series that I would love to do in the future at some point. But Neon Genesis, Bebop, a lot of these other like really famous, like Akira, everything's been said about them endlessly to death. But there's always like these other like more niche shows. The one that like is your is like your favorite anime account's favorite anime type deal, and there's so much on the vine there on when it comes to how do I say this? Sorry. There's so much like Kabbalah. There's so much like Buddhism. There's so much like spiritually on the vine in these series. And I think that it really, we're not doing YouTube analysis, and we're not doing like schizo like breakdowns of these series, but we're giving them actual like diagnoses, actual breakdowns, and really exacting like all of the meat on the bone.
I think that's exactly what I would hope. Like that would be my hope, is that people would listen to them and be like, this is a speculative ontological series, as you said. This is what they're doing. We're not doing schizoanalysis. We're talking about actual Kabbalistic or Buddhist or tantric or metaphysical. Generally, tarot has come up so many times for us. Ideas that really exist, that are really part of like coherent textual metaphysics and wisdom science. And then we're just applying that knowledge plus a little literary analysis to the series. And I think that you're right, that there are, all anime is obviously, as I always say on the show, like all anime is a hermeneutic. So it really depends on which series that you're going to like look at. The better the series, usually the better the hermeneutic. That's just, it's a good rule. It's not always the truth. There are plenty of B-list series that are actually chock full of metaphysical ideas, and maybe too much, and maybe that's what makes them B series. But this is not really a B series, what we're going to talk about today. So I'll let you introduce what you want to say about it first, and then I'll respond if you want.
So 4 years ago, the Weeb chat was created. Now again, it's just a group chat on Twitter where Jin and Jesse and a lot of other our friends kind of got together, and it was just kind of like right after I had come out of the closet of being a weeb on Twitter, and so. Which, by the way, is like one of like the greatest decisions I ever did, because it finally, we don't have to. I was so worried about being like gay for having this interest, because it really is, like the YouTubers did a really bad job of making anime cool. All of the anime avatar accounts did a really really terrible job of making anime look cool, and so it always just one of those closet interests of mine. Now I was never into the day I reincarnated as like my sister's dildo or something like that. But some of these series are like really cool and like aimed for, guys like me, guys like you, guys like all of our friends. And so one of the first things that I asked in the chat was, all right, so like, give me some of your favorites. Like, let's get to know each other a little bit. And almost everyone in the chat went and mentioned GANTZ. I had always been aware of it. I had always kind of like seen stills of it. I know it had a short-lived anime and it really existed as a manga. And I always kind of like wrote it off. I always thought it was kind of like a weirder looking Gintama. And that never really did anything for me. But, after the unanimous, praise for GANTZ, I was like, all right, I finally got to go and like dive into this. And I was on a trip out west. And I butt chugged the entire series in a span of like 4 days. There's so much to talk about here, but you go. What's your relationship with GANTZ like?
So I'm coming at it from the secret third thing, as usual, of course. So basically, I did not read the manga. And still haven't, but I'm familiar with, like, I've seen manga caps of it and all of that, of course, and you've posted several, and it's a very visually striking. I love my Kino, so it's super fucking Kino, and but I've seen the films and I've seen the anime series, so I would say for me, GANTZ lives really in the films, both the animated film and the live action, which I think are extremely good. If I'm being honest, like I think they're I think the Bleach live action is very good, but I think the GANTZ as a whole series is like phenomenal. So I'll say that because I'm Asian, I'll just say it like this, Monty. I've always had a relationship with anime, so it was never something that I ever had to hide, because people would assume it, especially like you have to think like late 90s, early 2000s. Grew up sort of transnational, bi-coastal, all of those things, and like you have like Vancouver, Hong Kong influence. People are gonna assume that you have like some fobby interests, which is true. I do have fobby interests, and my fobby interest is obviously anime and manga. So I've always had a relationship with it. People have always known that I have. I would read it way before it was cool in high school. People didn't even know what it was called, and obviously I growing up would read. My dad loves comic books, like he's one of those Chinese Indonesian guys that a lot of them in his generation, they learned how to read English or Bahasa or Chinese even, through comic books. And that's actually how I also learned how to speak Bahasa. I've told this story before, but I just want to say I have a profound relationship with kind of like the manhwa, which is what Indonesian comic books really are, or they're just the local translation of Marvel, DC, but usually it's Chinese comics. So I have a deep relationship with what is called manga. Manhwa, we'll say it's like a broad continuum, but I don't really have a contemporary, like this is where the Weeb chat helps me, is that it brings me more into like the contemporary stuff. Like, as you know, I'm a closet, I love Shield Hero. I really love Shield
Yeah.
Hero, and there's several isekai series that I admit are not necessarily intellectually high end or anything, but I think that they have an interesting ideas of metaphysics, and I think that's sort of also goes along with GANTZ. Is like, but GANTZ is full. I'm not trying to say that GANTZ is like some like lesser isekai series at all. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that the isekai series in and of themselves, just maybe as a genre, for speculative Kabbalah or speculative Buddhism, is a really interesting idea, because it is literally positing rebirth as a reality, and not just a rebirth, but a very Buddhist idea of rebirth as in a multi-dimensional, multiversal, there are multiple possibilities, and you are a free agent of your choices. And yes, you might reincarnate or rebirth with a hyper skill, or you might reincarnate as yourself, or you might reincarnate as a god, or you might reincarnate as a girl, or you might reincarnate as a, like an object, like a sword, or like a spider monster. Those are all very popular isekai series. So I think it's a very, I've called it before when we've recorded, and also on I think Jigoku Keiki's episodes, subtle dharma. It's kind of like this thing that is in Japanese culture, like pop culture broadly. There are these kind of subtle metaphysics, if you want to call them Buddhist. I would say that that's true, but there's obviously a case that you and I have both made that there is a lot of Christian metaphysics in anime and Japanese culture in general, whether they identify it particularly as Christian or not. Some of the ideas are clearly have clearly influenced them from the Dutch and from the Americans and from the British. It's inevitable. So this is a Hyperborean show, so all things, like, we have to look at things in a very syncretic way.
No, definitely. And it's like the subtle dharma that you're describing, it leaks itself everywhere, because it's also like the hero's journey. It also lends itself to just, like power scaling and dimensions, world building with like internal rules for how, like, these series operate under. And it's you can also come back as a brontosaurus in GANTZ's sake. So let's hop into the actual like plot and like what the story of GANTZ is.
Sure.
So
you go. I'm sorry, Monty. You go for it.
Yeah, unless you had anything before we hopped in.
No. I was preemptive. I apologize. Please go ahead.
All good. Okay, so we start off modern day Japan. It's chapter 0 for like every series possible. We start off with loser, ironic, detached main character. He's on the subway platform, and this old woman comes up to him and asks for directions for the Tokyo subway, and he gives her the wrong directions, as if a whole like, you stupid bitch, leave me alone. She even goes and like, oh well, that's I think you might be mistaken there, and he snaps at her, and this is a bad guy. His name is Kurono. And so, he's at the subway platform again, like just bad attitude, just like looking at all the girls and, like typical like incel-ish like behavior. Then a drunk homeless man falls onto the subway tracks. He's like, I see nothing, I hear nothing. Tough luck, GG's. You had fun while it lasted. Until another character appears called Kato. Now, Kato and Kei went to grade school together, and Kato is, altruistic. Like he has the impulses of a hero, but he is very scared. So, against his better judgment, his body throws himself onto the subway tracks in order to go and get the homeless guy, like, from dying. From down on the tracks themselves, Kato goes and locks eyes with Kei and is like, we went to grade school together. Help me help this guy out. So Kei is embarrassed, but ultimately he goes and jumps onto the subway tracks too. They go in with their combined strength, go and hoist the drunk guy back onto the platform. But the train is coming, and they are unfortunately kersplat by the metro. Then,
incredible scene in the film. I just want to say that they did not hold back. It is as violent as it sounds.
Yeah, from the jump, first scene, immediate violence. You're in for a treat with how like disgusting this gets. And so you were saying earlier about reincarnation. So suddenly, Kei and Kato both awake in this empty apartment. There's a bunch of other people who are also in the room with them, but most predominantly is this big black orb. It's like very much like 2001: The Space Odyssey, where like the obsidian is in the room. It distorts everything. Like the room is fake. No one can open any of the doors or the windows, but they're still in, Tokyo somewhere. And that's when, the sphere goes and on the display, it goes and gives instructions and it introduces itself as GANTZ. A very funny detail about this is that the GANTZ sphere speaks in leet speak. So with the whole like replacing E's with threes, twos with S's, like S's with twos, and just has a really like snarky like Xbox Live like attitude in the way it talks to the characters.
It is so important that you mention that because Japanese is such a visual language as well. Like obviously English is, you have to look at it to read it, but Japanese, because it can contain hidden and like pun meanings simply from the writing alone that you wouldn't normally get from speech. So it is important that you note that, because there are actual Buddhist metaphysical kanji used by the GANTZ. Now, this might have been a choice of the filmmakers. This might not be part of the manga, but I suspect that it actually is. And I also think that that is also a deliberate choice, because a lot of the time, most Japanese people seem to just write like katakana or hiragana, and that's fine. And like they'll know kanji, but it's like, as you know from your Chinese language background, they have a lot more meaning, the specific kanjis, and they actually can refer to historical things like very subtly. It doesn't have to be very explicit. So I also noticed that. And like also like it kind of oscillates between exactly what you said, elite speak, and this kind of more metaphysical, contemplative, very harsh, almost like a Zen master kind of way of speaking, and antagonistic all at the same time, adversarial maybe.
Yeah, just the GANTZ orb is just like constantly smacking you on the wrist for like being out of line. It'll go and say like bad luck. It'll say like game over. And anyway, so the GANTZ orb then opens up and reveals these black diving suits that the characters have to change into, and they also have two different kinds of guns. There's the X gun and the Y gun, and it's not clear to anyone how this is supposed to work. It doesn't give any instructions. It just says that your objective is to go and kill the onion alien. And, then we're still in the apartment itself, and, everybody's confused, and there's a countdown. No one wants to put on the suits. No one wants to grab the guns. They all died, and now suddenly they're in this like purgatory room. And it's, then, the second the countdown goes to 0, if you don't have your suits on, if you don't have your guns, too bad, you're in the game now. Now, the game itself, it kind of acts like a culling game, like in Jujutsu Kaisen, which I find a lot of parallels, and I'll be comparing it to JJK a lot in terms of why, like, I don't know, I just take every opportunity to shit on JJK, honestly.
That's fine. But, you can do so. I give you full permission to do that.
Thank you. But just to go and compare like where this series like really shines. And so they're basically they go and get warped into the streets of Tokyo. Pedestrians cannot see or hear them. They cannot see or hear the aliens. This game like exists almost like in a parallel universe that converges. So if like someone gets shot, if I like shoot the alien and it misses and it hits a pedestrian, then tough luck. But yeah, I mean, this is the basis of the first movie in the anime. They go and cover this arc, and it's it's so violent. Like how they go and like beat up the onion alien, which is just like the snot nosed like Bart Simpson, uh, who has like an onion spring for a head.
Yeah, the Negi man.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is actually it's sort of it's brutal. It's more it's
Mhm.
brutal over because then the father of the Negima, the Spring Onion Man, he obviously gets involved and they have to kill him, and he's really tough, and he actually takes out I think one or two people by himself. And if you I think you said this, Monty, but if you die in the game, it's game over.
This
It's
is your
over.
second shot. This
That's
is your
right.
second chance. If you miss it, you're dead. You're gone.
But you can actually revive at the last minute if you do not die by the time the clock runs out. It's kind
Yeah,
of
your
interesting.
your innards could be on the floor so long as you haven't completely bled out yet. Once the game is up, once the villain's been slain, you're back to life.
Well said. So what I like about this arc from the first film is that it there is actually a Buddhist monk in that they are reincarnated. We'll call it reincarnated for the episode, but they are
Mhm.
reincarnated with, and he is as lost as actually they all are. And actually, it's Kay and I'm forgetting the
Kato.
other Kato, right? Sorry
Yeah.
about that. Kay and Kato,
Mhm.
which makes sense. They are the ones who have the most wherewithal. At least like the most like impetus to like we're gonna put on the suit, at least try. Maybe they're a little lost at first, and there's the other guy that reincarnates with them that has obviously played the game many, many
Yeah.
times. And he doesn't tell them. We're not sure if he's a villain or a hero or maybe somewhere in between, which is I think where GANTZ likes to be. I think
Mhm.
GANTZ likes to be in that kind of liminal gray space of like nobody's quite a hero and nobody there are anti-heroes, and some of the times the players can be anti-heroes, and sometimes the aliens themselves are actually not even enemies. Like
Yeah.
they're actually making enemies of the aliens rather than the aliens are doing anything particularly nefarious in the human world. So it's a very gray sort of like morality is very much subjective. It's very much like tied to will, actually. It's like, what do you want out of the game? Do you want to survive? Do you want to wish? Because that's obviously GANTZ will give you kinds of wishes. Or
Mhm.
you can even eventually rack up enough points to be reincarnated back into the human world.
Yeah, so it's now is a good time to go over and bring like the rules of GANTZ up. So like we said before, every like instance, every iteration of the game, which by the way, once you're in the game, even when like you die, you get inserted into the apartment, you get the rules, the game begins. You have to kill the aliens to get points. You get points based off how difficult the boss is. Um, if when the alien's defeated or the time runs out, because you can fail the game by not like killing the alien in time, then you get brought back to the real world. You still have your gun in your suit, our main character Kay just keeps it on him at all times because he's scared of going back all the time. Um, and then at any given moment you could be called back to the game, and then the points that you get can be redeemed in for 100 points each. After 100 points, you can get one of three options. You can either uh, you can either come back to life, you can get a stronger gun, or you can go and resurrect someone. And so, the guy who is who like the mysterious figure we were talking before, he's like this little guy. He's clearly has a bad attitude. He's like kind of baiting people to get killed in the game so that he can go and I don't know, just like parasite off of like their points. Um, and he's definitely like an instigator, like knows something that he's not alluding to the rest of the party. Um, which eventually becomes a big plot point, but it's so violent. The X guns and the Y guns. The X gun goes and it doesn't really make sense to the characters, but it's you point it, you have to focus for a while, and your will, like you have to like you have to want this thing to die. So you have to like hold it up to it, and then an invisible blast will go and post a hole in it based off of how badly you want to kill it. So if you don't understand the game, then holding it and like pressing the trigger won't do anything. You have to like see the hole in their chest open in order for it to work. And it's the same thing with the Y gun. The Y gun goes and shoots these cables to go in and trap the alien, and that's how you can also subdue them for points as well. And again, it's the length of the cables can only come out based off of how much you actually want to like destroy this thing. And these are like the level 1 weapons.
So this, I will make a reference to a Western Westoid property. I'm just kidding about that Westoid jab. It's not. I'm not referring to anyone or any like in a pejorative way. Obviously, as I said, we're pro America. We're pro America show. This is Hapaborian hour. Like exactly. So, Doom. The guns instantly reminded me of the BFG, big fucking gun, and even the small ones, even the smaller ones, just because of the plasma, at least the plasma gun, because it shoots like exactly Monty said, like giant balls, but they are also invisible, but they take huge chunks out of even giants if you can get them to shoot. So it's a very interesting. He's definitely drawing from Western sci-fi or at least Western gaming tradition, in my opinion.
Well, I really do think that GANTZ is like such like it really is a tentpole property for Hapaboria, because it's a Japanese creator, like it's a Eastern property, but all of the characters and all the references are to like American like figures. I mean, like obviously a lot of the aliens and stuff are based off of there's like Tengu witches, and there's these like monk statues that come to life. But then, this is getting way ahead of ourselves. But at the end of the series, when we're finally faced with God, and he's like completely mocking, the God's face is consistently changes. Like one is like Snoop Dogg, like the other is like George W. Bush. This is a very 2000s property, I should also add. There's so many like references to like a lot of the side characters. Like one is Vincent Gallo. And the girl with the mace and chain from Kill Bill, like he's obsessed with American properties and he loves inserting it into the series. So really, like this is just kind of like the 2000s were so earnest in its aesthetics and its and just its attitude. GANTZ is a perfect time capsule for like 2004. Like when I was reading the series, so first off, all of the manga panels are so the author, oh god, what's his name? Author of GANTZ.
I should know. I should be able to pull it up from memory right away. I apologize.
No, my bad. It's I didn't come prepared, but Hiroya Oku. So what he does is he goes and makes all the character models in Unreal Engine, and then uses CG to go and get them to put off the gun models, the backgrounds are all these really ornate and like very photorealistic of what their surroundings are. But then he'll draw over the character models, and that's what gives it this like this PlayStation 2 sheen to it. Well, my first impression when I was reading this first arc here with the Onion Man is that man, it was like perfect product placement for the discontinued soda Mountain Dew Amp. It it even just like the design of the bottle. I'm like, dude, this oozes that those clear electronics, like the Game Boy Color when it had like the transparent background so you could see all the wires. Like that's exactly what this looks like.
I agree. Visually, incredibly kino, and it is it's like a 2000 series for sure, and it is earnest. That's a great point, Monty. Is that they were very open, much more open than the fandom as it currently seems to exist in the quote unquote discourse, whatever that is. This is kind of, it was always considered a B series in terms of the anime series, was always like a sort of like B tier.
Yeah.
It was like, well, it's well animated. It's totally worth watching. It's not like the most amazing like anime series. It's a little drier than it should be. whereas
Mhm.
the films and the manga, from what I understand, is a lot more kinetic and a lot more exactly what you said, quippy, wordplay, drawing from all of this Western textual canon of sci-fi and also like obviously indie cinema. So this is, I always knew that this is a very much a, if you like J cinema or what they call J video, which is our obviously those films that are like direct to video. One of the ones I love is personally is like Guru Loli versus like Frankenstein or Machine Girl. That's probably one of the most famous ones. But I've seen like hundreds of these kind of like J video. I'm telling on myself that I'm a huge but everybody knows already, so that's totally fine. But
It's a prerequisite around these parts.
exactly. So you can tell that this is very much about like this is a film nerd. This is a kino nerd kind of property. It's built in, it's baked in, like even the references to the like what Monty was talking about, like the kind of like Buddhist gods that arise, the asuras that are also aliens. So this posits like a very cool kind of like non-dual, like very da first season at least, idea that, oh, are they supernatural or are they aliens? Like you never really know. Like, yeah, they're posited as aliens, but you're never really quite sure because you don't even know the reality that they exist within.
Well,
I'm
it's
just
everyone's
saying.
being lied to. Everyone's being
Right.
lied to. The sphere isn't going and giving them any information. The aliens are that they can't speak your language. As a matter of fact, it's one of the funniest panels in the GANTZ manga. Is it's the second time that they play the game, and these Buddhist statues come alive, and they have to survive the night fighting these things. And one of them, the statues comes alive, and in the text bubble, it just says "crazy Buddhist noises," and it's like that's also goes along with like the 2000s comedy is like, I'm not going to do one of those hack like, oh well, we can't make jokes like that anymore, but the comedy's all over the place, like the leet speak with like the mean Xbox live chatter that the GANTZ box like uses. There's this hilarious these American black guys visiting Japan all die and they join the games. And again, one of the most iconic scenes in the entire series is when they're all hugging our protagonist, going, "You all right, white boy?" It's
Well, they do note that he does look like Michael J. Fox. That is kind of
yeah.
like a running trope, right? So even though it is, you are right, it is kind of a Hyperborean series because even though he is like technically ethnically Japanese, he is sort of recast as the typical 1980s like hero sweetheart. It's
Mhm.
interesting.
Yeah, it's like so. K, we said earlier he has the worst fucking attitude of all time. He's miserable. He's ironic. He's inauthentic. He's not earnest in any way, shape, or form. But his childhood friend Kato is. So Kato goes and saves the drunk homeless guy, and K dies alongside with him. And then I believe it's either the second or the third Alien like game that they have to play, where Kato ends up dying. And then Kay starts to realize, like, oh, I got to start taking this like seriously. Like Kato died, he trusted me, and now I'm stuck in this game without a life raft. And suddenly my above it all, like, oh, I don't care about this, like nihilism, starts to leak away, and very much like Gurren Lagann, when Kamina dies, it's like, no, I have to live up to the ideal. It's like, I'm not going to believe in me. I'm going to believe in the me that Kato believes in. And that assumption of responsibility and that assumption of being the leader is really when the series kind of kicks off and we start seeing like it going full throttle. Like Kay knows the rules now. He has a beautiful mid to call his own that he's protecting, who goes and like helps him,
She has
as the emotional
huge
support.
breasts. I just want to say that. Like it is the running, it's not just me, it's the running trope between manga, the film, and the
Mhm.
animated films that she has just giant breasts. Like just the
Giant,
biggest you've
giant
ever seen.
bazubas.
They're big.
Oh, and so another thing about again, it's like what's so cool about this being like such a 2000 series is that every there's 37 volumes, and at the beginning of each chapter they always have the cover spread, and it's always a babe taking on or taking off the jumpsuit, and it's always been referred to as the GANTZ girls. This is very sexy too. It's a very sexy series.
Well, the suit is quite biomechanical, maybe, or like there's something kind of bioorganic about it. It's kind of like how people will post about aliens, or like but not aliens as in the actual film, but like the drawings, the H.G. Geiger sort of like they're very sort of sexual in a way, like very. But they're not really erotic. But there is something in GANTZ that is kind of like that. It's kind of like an alien technology that is like kind of fusing, at least for a few hours or however long the game lasts, with the body. And they even make a joke I think in the very first scene, and they're like, they look at the camera pans to her breasts, and then they pan, and then it pans to someone else, and they're like, are you sure you're gonna fit in those? And then it cuts. So it is a cheeky series for sure, and it is great that it came out at the time it did, because I actually don't know if it would actually stand up to the Western fandom now, if I'm being honest.
I think if this was to have some kind of revival or have some kind of like reinterpretation in the West, I think it would fail, mostly because like GANTZ is so like it's violent and it's grotesque, and like it's committed to that. As a matter of fact, during when people get transported to the apartment and when they get transported to the rooms, there's a laser that goes and scans their entire body line by line, pixel by pixel, and you can see in the space, like if it's midway through my cranium, you can see like half of my skull at the top. It's not like one of these censored, like, oh, a beam of light goes and like encapsulates you. No. This is like it's commitment to showing the anatomy of the body. When people die, you see like their bones, their knuckles, their organs. People get their limbs ripped off. Very much like if it was to have a resurgence or any kind of reinterpretation in the West, it would lean more into like what Jujutsu Kaisen does, where it's just this very like blank, like, oh, arm ripped off, but you don't see any of the blood and guts. But it would be, like this cool, gnarly, like, oh, even the clothes are like these tattered lines, where GANTZ is showing no, like you can see bones sticking out.
This reminds me of when Haru was on the show, and she talked about
Shout out Haru Spectra.
Oh yeah, also part of the Grey Lodge, by the way. Just wanted to say that we fuck with each other in a cool way. But she talks about how beauty is nothing without violence, and I love that, and I think that's exactly what GANTZ is like. There's an epic temple battle with the Buddhist gods and the demons and temple protectors and all these things that we don't really understand properly, and there's like bodies literally cut in half, parts here and there, like arms, limbs, like blood streaks on the temple steps. Like it does not hold back. Like this is a true Guro series in a way, for like for people who are interested in the genre.
Yeah, like if you had this at 14 years old, like I would probably hide it from my parents, like instinctively, because I didn't want them to see. Like, there's a phenomenal scene as the series rather progresses. The fights get more and more intense. The monsters get stronger. There's more of them, and there's like more people getting added to the roster who end up just become fodder. And there's one where they get transported to Rome. And this is like legit. One of my nightmares is statues and gargoyles and any kind of like paintings, anything with a face becoming real. And so they're in Rome, and all these statues of like cherub angels and all of these like protectors, these lions and stuff, come to life as aliens, and then just start ripping the contestants to shreds. It's like there's one incredible like cover spread in GANTZ where a guy is being torn apart by 4 angels, ripping at each one of his limbs, and it's like it's so breathtakingly beautiful and vile in a way that's like this is the difference between shonen and seinen. This is for teenagers who are supposed like or in the market for this. Where shonen would just go and be like, oh, like again, like censored blood, even going in, not showing the hole in the person's body. Like seinen goes there, and like that's what I find so like cool and refreshing about these series that aren't, don't have to play into like the 12-year-old market base.
I'm glad you said that because we've always done series in the past that have sort of I would say they're not bounded particularly by the genres as you laid them out. They've always been sort of liminal in and of themselves because they actually draw from multiple series, which I actually think makes, with the exception of JJK, obviously. But JJK does do it too. It just does it in a more sanitized, very popular culture way. But I think that the other series that we have done definitely draw from multiple genres, and I think that makes them more interesting because I actually think that it gives them more literary weight, and I also think that it doesn't make them so limited. Like it's not just an isekai, as I said in the very beginning. It's not just like a throwaway one season isekai. It makes them substantive in a way because it allows them to play in the world, and I think that that's another great thing that you said, and it reminds me of the episode that I have not released yet, but maybe by the time this one comes out, I will have, obviously, but on Dark Souls. And so
oh hell yeah,
with Joshua and Seth. And so the idea is like it starts off at like extreme difficulty, but it only gets more difficult from there. So that actually reminds me of GANTZ because that is very much how it is. Like you can just die, you can be reincarnated once and you will play one game and you can be out of the game forever and ever. Like just erased from the universe, and people don't remember you, people don't remember your name, people don't remember your face. I mean, you are just gone. And so the stakes are incredibly high. And so like you said, like it is unlimited guns in a way, but it's also not. Like they have to upgrade, they have to like constantly buff and get like upgrade your equipment. So there's like a very RPG element to this that I particularly like, maybe a little tismic, whatever. But yeah, I mean, there is like a JRPG element to this, in a sci-fi way, maybe a Dead Space way. Maybe that's a good sort of comparison because the suit and like the kind of weird weapons, they're not conventional sort of weapons that like people are like, I know how to use this. Although I have to say in the films, when they start to use the swords, it does start to get really interesting for me. And the suits.
The extendo swords are so sweet. That's another part of the arsenal. So, you spend 100 points and you can go and increase your weapon loadout. So again, you have the option to exit the game, revive a fallen comrade, or keep playing the game and get better at it. So you're actually using like your in-game currency to go and upgrade your build. Later on in the series, we get our cast gets dropped into like an S-class mission where I forget exactly where it is, but there's like got to be like an entire I think it's like Singapore or something is under attack by like 40 kaiju, and it's completely devastating. But our cast runs into a different group of characters who are also playing the game, but they have gone and invested all of their points into increasing their weapon loadouts. So they're just like running house. They have these gravity guns where you go and hold these like massive loaders up against the enemy. You press the switch, and then this massive force, like an orbital strike, comes down and just pressurizes, flattens the aliens like a pancake underneath its weight. And these guys have just been playing the game for so long. It's like in World of Warcraft where you go and revisit a dungeon that you had previously beaten, but you're like 6 times higher level now. So the people who have the upgraded weapons loadout, they're jaded. They don't give a fuck. They're going and like raping the aliens. They're going and like putting on like one of the aliens' decapitated skulls on their head and like, oh, look at me. They're like on drugs. They're drinking and like shooting heroin in between kills. And it really captures this like savageness and how base like the human condition is of like when you're truly left alone and you're in like the sadomasochistic just experiment. they've leaned into the malicious intent of the GANTZ ball and just become their most debased version of themselves, where K really like rises up. And I'm going to hold on to my my thesis for the series until a little bit later, but it really kind of goes and shows like what the message of the series is with K's like ascension to hero status.
So this is a really interesting point, and I'll also wait for that commentary and then I'll respond to
Mhm.
it. But I do think that there's a very interesting sort of Setian or Enochian kind of like hero's journey in this. Is because it is not typical. And there are elements of that, of the convention hero, of the conventional hero, but
Mhm.
there are also elements of the anti-hero, which is what I like about him. He's complicated and he is not singular in his kind of like purview. And even when he wins the game, it is still kind of like it's still a choice of brutality. Like he has to choose who he wants to resurrect, or does he want to go back himself? So there's like
Yeah.
a lot of like, again, it's a multiverse. There are multiple options and multiple choices.
1000%. And it's so obviously, the ever increasing escalation, main characters die left and right. I mentioned the beautiful mid. Eventually we get introduced to this girl named Tay, who is the love interest, who originally Kato is the one who's like, oh, she's just like an innocent girl or whatever. We need to protect her. Kay in the beginning, he goes and allows Tay to go and sleep in his apartment with him. And she's sleeping on the floor. He's sleeping in the bed. And there's actually like, again, going back to the whole like humor you can't say anymore. But he's like, don't think I'm just some nice guy who will go and let you sleep in his house without asking for something. Like you should really be having sex with me. And that's kind of his attitude. Like he like this incel, like really like shitty attitude behavior coming out of him. But after Kato dies, Kei then goes and starts accepting responsibility for her safety. They end up actually falling in love, and he is like responsible for saving her through not only a hero's impulse but also like of affection. And this carries over, and so when we get eventually meeting up with these like S class, like evil characters who are also playing the game, he's very taken aback by this, and he like has his group of inexperienced, fodder really go and stay with him while he goes and he's still using like the X gun, which is like the intro gun that you get. He still uses that to go and take out the monsters because he's more interested in bringing back Kato. He's more interested in bringing back Tay when she dies. He's interested in saving everybody instead of just opting out of the game and just getting his own life back. And really, the ascension, it's all right. So I guess I should just like kind of hop into it. My thesis for the series is that you have to reject all like irony. The GANTZ ball is pure evil. It goes and taunts the participants. It forces them to play this game. It forces them to kill aliens who they can't communicate with, while also taking sick joy in ripping them away from their loved ones just to play the game again. And Kay, as he goes and sheds his irony and his antisocial behaviors and assumes the position as leader, is really like the only way out. It's how he saves the world from these GANTZ balls by accepting responsibility and becoming a hero, like pulling Excalibur out of the stone.
Yeah, exactly. You hit it right there. It's the refining process. It's the adamantization process. It's like, how does he become? Well, he also becomes through his mind. And like what you're saying, yes, it is about the physicality. Yes, it is about learning how to use the suits. Yes, it is about the weapons upgrades, but it's not really about that. It's really about his determination, his will, and actually refining what he thinks that is. Because as you have laid out the groundwork, the brickwork, the foundation, he doesn't start out like that. He
Mhm.
starts out a very different person. And actually he changes. He's flexible and fluid even. Not fluid sexually, obviously. I'm not talking about that. But I'm saying in a more hermetic way. He does actually increase in potentiality through his own mind. So I think for like this show and like what I often discuss, I think that's actually a really interesting point that is sort of carried through the series as well.
Yeah, and it's another thing is that the series itself kind of leads into this a lot. It's a shame you couldn't be here, but brother Dingbat, brother Jesse, you're here in spirit, brother. So he was another one of the people that really recommended the series. And I remember even from like the initial talks of it, he went and brought up probably the best character in the series. His name is Kaze. Kaze is in the real world is a traveling Ronin. He's from China originally, but he traveled the entire world in order to go and fight stronger and stronger opponents until he finally gets to Japan, where he is ultimately killed. I forget how, but when he's in playing the GANTZ game, he like puts on the suit and he's a grappler. He like explosive punches, and ultimately he goes, the most badass. He's like straight out of Fist of the North Star, like but plopped into GANTZ world, and he meets this young boy who is terrified. He's scared. He died coming from an abusive family, and now Kaze is responsible for him. And the series just takes so much time and so much love and care on this tender relationship between Kaze and this child. And every time that they get separated, it's like a mad dash to go and reunite. Every time that Kaze is in trouble, the boy like cheers him on. And this is how we win against the forces of evil. We stick together. We have integrity. We rise to the occasion and accept responsibility. And this mirrors Kay's transformation into it. And I just think that when you become your most authentic self, and again, this is leaning into the 2000s of it all too, because the series itself, even in its aesthetics, is still being as earnest as possible with the CG designs, with the art, the cover spreads, like how as the art even got better, the more like focus that the series gets. And I feel like I'm rambling right now, but I hope
you're really not. You're really not. I promise, Monty. I wouldn't let you. I wouldn't. I mean, you can do whatever you want, but I think it's all really good. I think that that's part of what makes the series interesting that you and I have done, is that we both kind of come from our own perspective, but then we can sort of meet in dialogue. So
Yeah.
I think it's all worthwhile.
Yeah, I feel like I was a ball hog there. Yeah, you go. I
I mean, this is the thing, is that like I like Kaze's character because he is obviously Chinese and like have to rep for the motherland or whatever.
That's right.
And but he also he practices bajiquan, which is a really interesting martial art that is used as the striking motion of the elbows as well as the shoulders. That's right. And also the hips, because when you do like the footwork, it's like striding. That's considered like the demon's art. That's what they often call it. So they say like if you practice like Piguachuan and Baijichuan together, and so if you practice those together, then you are able to topple mountains and any demon. That's kind of like the thinking. So it's like a very powerful, very explosive, very like it's very Kino kind of fighting style. It's not it's more like what you'd see in mainland Chinese television. Like they would make like those series about like some Tai Chi master and some Bagua master, and they have these like epic fights in their school's courtyard. I've seen so many like TVB and mainland series just like that. And so this is kind of like a very in the
heaven
know
split above them.
That's right. It's a very in the know sort of Chinese martial arts style that people who are interested in Chinese history would find very fascinating, and it's kind of rare. So I obviously like his nicheness, and I like his attitude. It's just like it's to be like a ball crusher. Like it's to be like that is what it is. He is going to fight the fight every time. He loves fighting. That is his impetus, his will for living, really, and for continuing on in the game.
Yeah, it's I'm another thing that I just like always draws me to. I mean, obviously, the big beefy guys shooting fireworks out of their hands is it's like why I like series like these in the first place. But just like there is something to be said of just like traveling Ronin who just constantly seeks like the strongest opponents, and just the fight choreography of like an explosive punch that goes and like can like bring a skyscraper to its knees is just so satisfying. And to coupled with like the power violence and the gore, like the guru of it all, with GANTZ is man, like Baki the Grappler needs to take notes. That's all I'm gonna say.
So what would you say is there any, besides JJK, and both of our feelings are well known on that subject, but what would you say, is there a contemporary equivalent, and should people who consider themselves anime heads revisit the series, and how should they view it? Should they appraise it like as a contemporary property? Like, a lot of people on quote unquote fan Twitter, they really love to do that. They'll like appraise it by like our standards of today.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that you chronologically place it where it should be, is as a mid early 2000s property. It's much more the world is much more understandable because we hadn't yet crossed the AI threshold totally.
Yeah.
Like maybe we did unknowingly, maybe it was already in the on socials a little bit and nobody noticed, but now everybody's like very hyper aware of AI, and some people love it, some people hate it, some people some people are indifferent, and there's so many different, like a multitude of reactions. So I think now I want to hear what you say, but I just think that it's a very different series if you consider it a sci-fi series, because it is not really engaged with our sort of like hyper technological world that we find ourselves in now.
No, it's I get a lot of parallels with Bleach. Because one, it came out around the same time. It's dealing with a little bit like older like sensibilities and styles. But I it's hard to take it out of the context of the time that it came from, mostly because it's literally using Unreal Engine and a lot of CG for the manga panels. Like reading it now is a modern equivalent would be very hard pressed to come by, just because no one really does that anymore. And to like for good reasons, like the early couple of chapters of GANTZ, all the characters look the same. So that's kind of a flaw in using CG for manga. But in terms of like a modern equivalent, Jujutsu Kaisen is like rips a lot from this. And I think that what you were saying before about the first season of Dandadan, with all of the extraterrestrial, but also the like terrestrial, like metaphysical entities, it definitely, if not borrowed directly from GANTZ, definitely subliminally is stuck in there.
Well, you're not wrong about JJK, because JJK sort of saps the as you know, as we've discussed it sort of saps from everything. And I'm saying sap on purpose because it kind of distills it down to the most mass consumers, like slop element of like not being interesting, not being dynamic, but it does take from a lot. It definitely has it's an everything series. That's a kitchen sink series. GANTZ is a little more selective, but I agree that this is a good critique about using CGI, for manga. And like maybe it does go into some of the Western criticism of manga that all the Japanese characters did look the same, at least initially. And that criticism that all Asians look the same, maybe that is true.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't
maybe,
think
so,
maybe.
No, I mean it's in terms of like a modern, I just don't think there is one. I think that so GANTZ came out with Dark Horse Comics, which I again, it has a lot of like Western influences, and I'm pretty sure that's why. Because again, Dark Horse is a like Western like comic book distributor. So it kind of is this weird like Hyperborean Eurasian like it's almost like he didn't get the budget to make a video game. And I think that that's something that exists in this kind of like multimedia, which is why I think it's awesome that the anime is really only covering the first season or the first alien like arc. Which, by the way, it's also directed by one of the great directors from Gundam. Oh God, what's this guy's name? Oh yeah, Ichiro Itano. So Itano lines are in it kind of got popularized from Gundam. But you know when like missiles are shot and then it's like like you're following the perspective of the missiles and they're making like sharp turns because they're heat seeking, and you're following like the jet streams until they eventually blow up and then the big robot can aura farm. He's the one who like popularized that and created that. So it is cool in like anime history of this is one of the other series that he did. Even though the production budget really doesn't like mirror that, but the grotesque nature of it is definitely like oozing off of it with the Itano. But and then also the movies only containing like the Onaka, it's not Onaka. The one of the other alien like incidents, Osaka, the Osaka incident movie is really good. And it's kind of cool at how it's like it's a multimedia series. It exists in like so many different formats and so many different ways because it really was a multimedia property to begin with.
I agree. I think that is exactly what it is. Like you brought it up, the CGI that makes it multimedia in and of itself. It has like elements of like what I think. Not that I use CGI, I don't, but for this show is like what I think of it as. It's like a chaos, like chaos magic more, not chaotic, but a chaos sort of a meta magic show, mimetic magic. And so in a way, I think that it's drawing from that kind of energy, like where it's like, we're going to put some things together that people don't necessarily associate being together. And we're going to do it on this multi-platform, because obviously he didn't make a game, but they actually did make of it a GANTZ video game eventually. So, I think that's more speaks to what makes Japanese media interesting is that things can actually exist in a multiverse of their very own, because they are different arcs and they are different kind of like, it's not exactly a replication of the prior material. Like you can make an argument for that for the anime for sure, like for the anime series, that it is like a very close replication of that arc from the manga. I would pretty much agree with that from what I understand. And so, but the films, like it's because they're human actors, they kind of have a life of their own. And so I like that it can exist on like sort of multiple, if you want to call it metaphysical layers of reality. And it really does. And I actually find myself, just for me, but I find myself comparing it to a lot of video games, like that kind of late 90s, early 2000s video games. But I think Bleach, like when you said it, I was like, yes. I was like, this is the series that most reminds me of Bleach, because the heroes, while not exactly the same and not even of the same character or maybe of the same hero's journey, maybe it's a totally different hero's journey, but they actually have some kind of symbolic similarity. And I like that I think the series is much more about finding the sort of inner, we'll call it the inner teacher, the self-reflexive inner guru, if you want to call it like that. It's much more about that than finding validation in the externalities.
Yes.
Because Bleach is very much about Ichigo finding himself as Ichigo. Like he has to know who he is. He's not institutional. He's not of the Longhouse. He's totally like a rebel, but he's a rebel in a sweet and like monkeyish way. Whereas obviously in GANTZ, he's kind of abrasive. But those are just polarities of like a similar character in a way. So I don't know.
It's like the different shades of a teenager. It's like Ichigo like started as like a do-gooder, like policing the neighborhood of bullies to go and protect his sisters and stuff, while Kei is he lives in Tokyo. He's like an urbanite, very jaded, like it isn't in the status in life. He's angsty. He like thinks he's owed sex, a lot of these things. And it really is like two shades of like kind of the same coin. it's like a 16-year-old with like, well, what the hell am I supposed to do? That like pent up, like kind of waiting for the call to action, where Ichigo would go in and jump at the opportunity. Kei would be like, all right, well, what's the catch? Like a very jaded character. And no, and like finding the inner teacher is like really I think that's really profound, because again, like Kei's transformation, like if you go and watch like the anime series, that Kei, and then like immediately jump into the Osaka incident movie, Kei is a completely different character, and you would almost assume that this is like a spin-off or something, based like loosely based off of the IP of the manga, if you didn't follow it, because it really is like that radical of a change in character. But yeah, it's just really like taking like a ruthless mental inventory, especially when like your loved ones are dying in front of you, really is, all right, you need to find that fire within yourself like immediately. Like
Mhm.
your back's against the wall. You are going to die unless you go and unlock your full potential, which unfortunately is a push that a lot of people need to make.
I agree, and I think this actually goes along with a lot of what we discuss. Is this like I find GANTZ like extreme? Like I'm flattered that you say it's like a Hyperborean, like a Eurasian series. I think so too. I didn't want to necessarily bring it up and be like, oh yeah, this is like totally fitting of the canon, but it is. And I actually even think there's something metaphysically interesting that Kato is the sort of impetus for Kei to sort of work on his own apotheosis, if you want to call it that, because it's not the patriarchal master student relationship. It is actually the fraternal, like
Mhm.
brotherly, and not in a, it's not in a weird or like there's nothing, it's not like what the modern fandom might make of it. It's like it's very platonic and very wholesome. And I just think that that actually is very meaningful for, if you want to call it like what Hyperborea really is. It's more of that, like more leaving, as I have said, it's leaving the longhouse and the bathhouse, in
Mhm.
the sense that the bathhouse represents like this patriarchal institution of like old men trying to fuck you, whether metaphorically or very literally. So I like that. I think it's very liberating, and I actually find the presentation of the metaphysics, it's non-dogmatic. So I find that appealing also, like from a more chaos magic or tantra perspective. Like, yeah, it is, there's a subtle dharma. It's clearly influenced by Buddhism in a deep way, but it's also about aliens, or maybe not, and it's also about like big fucking guns. So you
Yeah.
have to reconcile a lot of different things, even if if you're, especially if you're saying it is, has this dharmic sort of backdrop. You have to also reconcile these like really weird and surrealist almost elements, but that is kind of what Buddhism is, right? It's like it's all about the multiverse. It's all about like weird Sephirotic or Merkaba journeys, like through the different realms of existence and through your mind. And so I think this series is like a really incredible series. I'm really happy that I found someone like of your caliber, but also you're the one who I do all my anime series with. But I appreciate that we could actually like decide to do this one, because I think that this one doesn't get enough love for um how cool it is. And I think there's so much slop now, and maybe there's always been so much anime slop, as someone who said that they watched a ton of anime as a kid, and I definitely did. There's a lot of slop from the 90s and the 2000s.
Oh
Like
yeah.
people are kidding themselves if they think that there were not like throwaway OVA series, or throwaway even like long form multi-part series for television. So there's a lot of bad series. It's always been part of anime. And sometimes you go through like a dry spell, and sometimes you go through a more fertile period. But I think that this was a sort of slept on property even on its release. But I know it was like the films did huge numbers in Japan for Japanese film, which
Yeah.
it normally doesn't really make money. And a lot of the actors were really like cool at that moment too, like the human actors, and they were doing a lot of other kinds of like anime crossover, kind of live action and like sci-fi movies. This was like a very fertile time for a lot of Japanese sci-fi movies. So I think that I think Gantz is, it's transcendent in a way, because its metaphysics allows it to be viewed from multiple angles. I think that's how I want to say it.
I completely agree with you. I think that it's. I think another big part of this, and kind of why, like, it also has this kind of mystique around it, where it's the ending is bad, like really bad. It's an incredibly rushed mess. Eventually, the aliens are real. The GANTZ machine is going and summoning, the mothership of the aliens to come and attack and then colonize Earth. And it's mostly because, okay, well, the GANTZ ball was going and transporting aliens to Earth to participate in these culling games. And again, the 2001 like obsidian that is the GANTZ ball is responsible and provoking all sides to go and create this, instigating an intergalactic war here. And then eventually Kay gets onto the alien spaceship. Tay gets separated. It's very funny, but it kind of really loses a lot of its like it loses the plot a lot in this span of time. Like we get introduced to this like alien horse girl that becomes like a side character to Kay. Very strange. But I mentioned earlier about God appearing. So at the very end of the series, well, I'm sorry, before I get to that, the GANTZ ball itself, there's this German girl who is like speaking in tongues, and his dad is going, her dad rather, is going and like transcribing like the mathematical code of what she's saying. And so it's kind of creating this, this like magic number, like pi, like numerology sequence that goes into the functioning of the GANTZ ball, which I also find really interesting. But when God appears, he is endlessly cruel. He has all of these faces of all of these like Gandhi, Snoop Dogg, George W. Bush, a lot of other like big pop icons at the time, and just saying that like life is meaningless, like you exist to serve me. He goes and brings all of the characters who have died in the game back to life in front of Kay and company, just to go and kill them immediately and say like this is how little your life means. And it's playing with Gnostic themes. It's playing with these like numerology and like angel numbers to go and create computer code that will lead the chaos magic that will lead to unrest on a like biblical level. It's swinging for the fences in all regards, and this beautiful nightmare that the show has the charm that Jujutsu Kaisen will never have, because it's so unironically itself that where it fails, it's actually charming as opposed to like cheap.
Yeah, I agree 100% with everything you just said. I think that I'm glad you brought up the Gnostic themes. I always want, I know I really can say whatever I want when we're on together. I don't know why I like withhold or anything. It's not intentionally. I don't always want to like,
Who hurt you?
well, many, but I've heard many too. So, fair,
Yeah.
fair game. But, I'm a wizard. What can I say?
Mhm.
But, no, I feel like the idea of that it is playing with Gnostic themes, that is playing with this other kind of Western metaphysics too. That's 100% correct. Like, there's no question about it. There are Gnostic themes, and you can absolutely make an argument that Buddhism is a kind of lowercase g Gnosticism. I feel
Mhm.
like this is like everybody should be comfortable with hearing me say that, because it is not only true, because it is true, but it's also like they should be more aware of the word Gnosticism and Gnostic
Yeah.
themes and what that actually means. That isn't just about like rebelling against the Bible or against the God of the Bible or against God in the universe or against even the demiurge. There are many different flavors of Gnosticism, and there are many different ways that it was understood. And frankly, we don't really know. We don't really know how any of those groups what they actually believe. We know a few texts that they supposedly passed around and practiced, but we don't really understand their actual cosmology. And anyone who says that we do, show me the proof, because we
Yeah.
really don't have it. And so, but there are Gnostic themes that are more broad, which is from like Hypothesis of the Archons, or the one of the Gnostic Revelation of John. So those are the primary texts that people are drawing from, and there are clearly elements of that. The guy in the black cube, who is that? Well, there are different like ways that the property resolves that, sometimes it's a character. Sometimes it was there was a scene in the film where it was Kato.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's replicating them up, but that is suggestive that it's also your own mind, that the game is actually reproduced through your own mind. Like, are you an agent of the game? Are you an agent of the black cube? Like, what is the nature of all these things? And so you say it resolves in the, I mean, obviously I believe you, in the aliens and this kind of like rushed through story. That makes sense. I think that a lot of people, Japanese people too, I don't think this is like a Western thing at all. I think they're uncomfortable with the kind of ambiguity of Gnostic ideas that GANTZ was playing with in the earlier part of it, especially in the films, the manga, and the first season of anime. Those are very Gnostic properties, like no question about it. Like you could watch them and be like, I'm going to do a Gnostic breakdown on all these films. I don't want to do that, but I'm just saying you could. And so I think that people are mostly very uncomfortable with ambiguity and with gray, and they like binaries. They like their morality to be very fixed. And I think that this is a very challenging and adversarial property because of that. And I think that is what makes it Gnostic. Rather than singling out, like, yes, and I'm saying we can, but rather than singling out any particular theme or storyline or plot point or even character, it's really in the adversarial position it takes to the metaphysics of the universe, just discounting, obviously, the summoning of the mothership and all of that, which is fine because we know from our discussions of Bleach and even D. Grayman, sometimes there are parts of the canon that need a little excising, or you just choose to forget that it ever existed. And that's totally fine. That's very much of the fandom.
Yeah, I mean, hey, listen, the Book of Enoch was lost. You know, who says that the alien invasion chapters couldn't be lost to history? Who knows, you know?
Well, I think that's a perfect place to sort of like, should we like recapitulate and give our ratings of like what we think the property as a whole, and then if you want to break it down, you can, you know, like whatever, however you want to do it. Do you want to have the final bar, Monty? Mic drop.
I mean, it's yeah, so I think before we go on to reviews, as customary around here, I think, you know, just to put a cap on it, GANTZ is now obviously like I'm you know, primed to like this. I was, you know, drinking like Mountain Dew Code Red, playing Call of Duty, you know, in 2004, and so all of the, like I was saying before, the aesthetics really speak to me. The humor really speaks to me. I like the villain designs are top notch. I just go on to GANTZ, type in GANTZ in Google Images, and just go and look at some of the cover spreads, and like tell me that this thing looks bad just because it's using CG. I find K to be an actual hero. Like manga, I like manga. I've always liked comic books. I do like it when it's very kinetic, where I can kind of feel the action happening. Where instead of just a blob of motion lines on a page, I like to feel that the characters are in danger and they are just narrowly escaping these mortal blasts. And so the combat in GANTZ is so clear. It is so much fun when Kay is riding like the futuristic like motorcycle, the one-wheel motorcycle, while he's got his like babe in one arm and he's blasting with the X blaster in the other. It's such an adrenaline ride that I finished it in like 4 days. I was visiting family out in California, and I was sneaking off to the bathroom to go and like continue reading on my phone. It's so good. The ending is still not even that bad compared to like everything that came before it. It kind of sucks, but I mean, even like the unfleshed out villains, like the Vincent Gallo vampire who tries to hunt down the cast during the when they're not playing the game, is incredible. Oh my god, I'm sorry, I completely forgot one of the most important parts of the series.
Oh, don't worry about it. I use Descript. I can put it anywhere. So you can just do your singular bar and I can reclip it and put it wherever you want.
Okay. Because in addition to Kaze being like one of the coolest characters, and like how the show clearly puts a lot of like emphasis on him being, like this like man, this manly man who is, protecting his like adopted son and surviving the game together. At the very like other side of this is a character named Izumi. Now, Izumi is a stone cold son of a bitch. So he went and played the game once before and chose the option to come back to life, but lose all of his memories of GANTZ. Now he's back to life. He's a transfer student and goes to K's high school. And he clearly didn't lose all of his memories because he knows something's going on. He's aware of the GANTZ game and he wants back in. So what he does is he goes and triggers a mass casualty event in Tokyo. It's extremely famous. The still it's been posted on our side of Twitter for a long time now, where he goes and paints his face to be a black man, where he's then going to go and bring like a light machine gun and then just mow down all of Shibuya. And it's one of the most grisly, one of the most gruesome mass casualty events depicted in fiction that I've seen, especially in a manga form. I was blown away by how disgusting this was. And he becomes another like villain alongside because he wants to be one of these, like S-class guys who go and just like bomb the fuck out of all of these aliens. Like he's like evil incarnate, and like it's so gripping. It's so good. GANTZ is so good.
GANTZ is so good. It really is. It really is perhaps like one of my top series of like as an adult, which I think is actually interesting because there's a lot of people who say they're anime fans, and as like you've been a weeb for a long time, Monty, like sort of like me, like for a long time, held on to it. And it's not like you're not like some, visitor or tourist to the fandom. I think it's interesting because a lot of people who are new to anime, which is a lot of people since 2016 for sure, the majority maybe, is that they tend to go nostalgic, where they like the series that they like are the series that they maybe first watched or first like encountered, or the other people, supposed anime heads in the broader fandom community, have said like is acceptable, is like this is part of the canon of good works that is like non-problematic. And GANTZ definitely is so much edgier. It's so much more grown up. I'm glad that you brought up the point about the sort of like the reenactment of the scene that you did, because you cannot go away from the idea that GANTZ is really about what it means to be human in a way. It is still manga, it's still anime, but it actually is asking a deeper metaphysical question. It really is. And I think that it's okay. So there's another series, like Jesse was telling me you have to bring up Inuyashiki. I brought it up another time, teasing you because obviously the character, we'll just do the joke again. I'm sorry. The character goes, if you read One Piece, it's a mark of a sociopath or a psychopath. I can't remember what he says, but it's something like that.
One Piece was crazy good this week while he's about to kill someone. Yeah,
right, exactly. And he like tears up and he's like, it makes me cry, man. And like he just murks a bunch of people. So, but I think that like those series like that, they might not ever be intensely popular among even the fandom, or even among like people who consider themselves anime curators or whatever, like people who are really into revisiting properties that are exceptional. But I do think that it actually shows a depth of a kind of respect for the medium if you can appreciate these series that are actually much more challenging. Like Inuyashiki challenges me because of how hyper violent it is, because it's kind of unrepentantly violent. Like it's just like, and GANTZ is very much like that too.
It's
violent.
Same author.
Right. So that's what I was trying to say. I'm sorry, I didn't really get there, but thank you for that. But that's what I mean, is that it's unrepentantly violent. It's showing you brutality, carnal ground conditions, if you want to call them that. And I think that it is about what you do with your mind in those moments, exactly like what you said. And I think there's nothing that shows your level of cultivation, like talking about the hero or talking about Buddhism. There's nothing more that shows your level of cultivation than how you react in the moment of fire.
Yeah. No, yeah, you got to keep in mind that, anime and manga is a medium. and you can do whatever you want within these mediums. The bounds are, I mean, I even hate using the term like I really like the term medium, really, because all of the rules when it comes to art, when it comes to the formatting, presentation, story art, characters, all these things are meant to be broken. And true innovation, manga and anime has been around for like at least 100 years now. Like to go and think that, in the bargain bin, deep in the archives, there isn't series like worth watching and stuff, like whatever, like bullshit of the month, like I'm sorry, if Fire Force is like the best series just because you saw it recently, that's not good enough. There's like 100 years.
Horrible series, by the way. I'll go on
Really
record
bad.
saying that. Like I honestly wanted to like it. I was like, there's a premise here that is interesting, could be cool, sort of kino and stylistic as an anime.
Yeah.
But it just fails on every level. It's kind of actually like Blue Exorcist. I think we actually even spoke about this another time. A series so full of promise, like a great idea, a great like plot, a cool story, like you could really do something with it, and it just every single time it fails to deliver, and it actually fails to go anywhere. It fails to even fulfill the promise of the story. So
it's like the setup is like the entire point of it. It has it has nothing to pay off. So like me and my friends, we go and like refer to series like these as fairy tale clones. Because fairy tale is like a shitty, like, like a preschool ripoff of One Piece. And it's like the Crunchyroll catalog of anime, where all of these things are like, it's the same like animation style, it's like the same stupid characters, it's the same fan service jokes with like ugly character designs. It doesn't go anywhere. Like, you have to avoid this stuff if you're new to the if you're new to like anime and manga and stuff. Seriously, we're building the canon for you. This is where you should be starting. I think D Grayman, Bleach, Freerin, I mean GANTZ, like we joke about JJK, but like these are series that are special and they're unique, and they offer something new and get you off of the Crunchyroll plantation. Don't fall for this bullshit like talk no jutsu and like that's what anime is. That's not what it is. It's a medium that is endlessly expressive.
I love that. Break out of the fucking Crunchyroll plantation house right now. Break that klipa. I agree. Very Aeon of the Daughter, Monty. I'm just gonna say, like, we're breaking out of the corporate shell. So I obviously co-sign that. I agree. I mean, there's nothing else to say. It's exactly what you said. Like, people can choose what series that they actually like for themselves. I actually think this is what makes our series, and like I don't want to say the show in general, but I do kind of think like I kind of just care about what I think. Not like I'm not a solipsist where I'm like I don't care about what my friends think or what anyone. Of course I do. I just mean that in terms of what I aesthetically like, or what I metaphysically like. I'm always okay to be like the loner out there at first who is okay with liking things that are not quote unquote popular or acceptable within the fandom, simply because I actually think that I actually have good taste. And from the amount of podcasters who rip off me, I obviously have some good taste. So I think, right?
We know you're listening.
Well, I did this the Substack, and my numbers went up so much. It like was honestly crazy, and I don't know if it was like all people from Substack that go on it and listen, but it did add like another 500 people to the list, like to the episode download. So it was totally worth it. But what I'm saying is,
huge.
If you have to listen to me to like decide what you like, that's probably a problem. If you like what I like, that's cool. Like we can be cool and we can be friends, but you don't need to listen to me to decide what you like. Just listen to the dialogue and discern for yourself.
It's up to you to forge your own path. It's up to you to go and to build your own canon. Tastemakers, all they do is go and vocalize what they like. Anyone can do it. You can do it. Me and you have been doing it. But yeah, it's like we're telling you the reasons why we like certain things and don't like others. it's grab life by the fucking balls. Like, you only get one shot at this. Like, don't waste it. Like, find stuff you like for your own sake.
Well, that's a perfect GANTZ kind of way to end it too.
Yeah.
Because you only really get the one. You might get multiple multiple tries, but it's only this one life. That is who you essentially are. I mean, maybe you're not maybe you're not who you essentially are. And so I think that's also important, is that like you have to like learn who that is. And like that is I wouldn't say there's a message in GANTZ, but there's a question of like who that is and what choices would you make if you were drawn into the Black Sphere game.
There you go. Woo!
Good job, Monty. Okay, so let's do our perennial rating system. I'll let you go first.
So all the reasons that I described earlier, GANTZ is a flawed series that excelled in everything it wanted to, and it felt like it was other people who were trying to end the series for it. It's definitely rushed. It didn't take its time in the end, but it kind of doesn't matter, because what you really come for is the intrigue, the action, and the heroics of the first like 250 chapters. The rest, the last couple books can be lost to history. Who cares? That's totally fine. But GANTZ itself, continues to exist in this world where it may not get all the credit, but it's referenced constantly. The screenshots of you are right for a white boy, and the guy going and painting his face in blackface, like, these will exist forever, and it's because the author just was tapped in. I think giving it any lower than 4 is a crime. So I'm going to give 4.5, even though, again, the ending is incredibly disappointing. But I'm not going to hold it against it, because it was doing something incredibly unique and interesting and continue to do so.
Okay, so I'm going to keep mine short and just say that I agree with Monty. I think 4.5 is very healthy and fair, and like it is what the series actually deserves. Like, as an entire canon is infinitely watchable. There's a lot of material to read. If you don't want to read the ending of the manga, then don't. That's fine. That's up to you. But you have like the movies, you have the animated film, the Gare Zero, you have the first season of the anime. This property has a lot for people. So this isn't like I can't even think of an equivalent thing, but it's not limited. It's like you almost get a different version of the story every single property, and it unfolds actually in interesting ways, because you actually learn more about the characters the more into the whole canon you go. So the more deeper you kind of visit it, the more you understand it. So I think that's worthy of a 4.5 in my opinion. And I like that it's edgy, and it also is it was pre-culture war, but in some ways, like you're saying, he was tapped in, so he knew like exactly kind of what trigger points to give us on whatever dissident Twitter even is, which is not really a thing anymore. But it did give plenty of mimetic magic to actually really upset the libtards at certain times, especially that infamous manga with the blackface. That is a classic on Twitter, and will forever probably be part of the sort of 2019 mimetic magic ideas.
Totally. Couldn't agree more.
So that being said, thank you so much, Monty. I really appreciate it. I think it's you're one of my, I'll just say it for the record, you're one of my favorite returning saints, and also my friend. And so I am lucky to count you among those. And I'm also lucky that you have decided to at least be part of this crazy thing that is Threshold Saints, whatever that is. I called it a chaos mimetic show, which it is. And so thank you for throwing your lot in with me and all the other people who have done so. Obviously, interestingly, we've all sort of coalesced and become kind of a group chat gang, but in a wholesome and non-sinister way. way, we'll say at all. So thank you, really sincerely, Monty, for coming back. I know you had a little Twitter hiatus, but as we all have and should do, and I think it's healthy. And I think I'm really glad that you came back, and we'll continue to do these. I love doing them, and as long as we find series that both of us can find like meaning and depth in, I think we'll be fine. We've got an infinite amount of material really to cover.
Absolutely. I want to echo all the sentiments that you just shared. Jin, you are a great friend of mine, and I really am grateful to be part of this fraternity that you're building with the Grey Lodge. All the Threshold Saints, people who I've met along the way have been nothing but kind and like funny and cool. And I learn something every day. It's an honor and a privilege not only to call you my friend, but to be a part of this whole thing. It's not very often that we meet fellow travelers who are into this stuff, and you can do a hell of a lot worse than subscribing to this podcast and following Jin and I.
I agree. Follow Monty. He's funny as fuck. I mean, if you can't tell from our episodes, but like I'm sure you can. But if you cannot, you should follow him on Twitter because he is, or X, because he is a fellow word cell. And I appreciate that you said that about the group in general, because I try and cultivate like people who are, I know we talked about authenticity and like people who are quirk chunguses, and even the girls, they're all weird and quirk chunguses, of course, of their own. And
shout out to the daikinis.
Of course, exactly. And so that that's kind of I'm weird too, and so like it kind of makes sense for me, right? Like I occupy a niche, and I'm not even looking to be anything other than what I am. I'm just doing a cool show for the Aether Wave, as I call it. Like subscribe to my Substack. It's free. I'll never charge for it. You get the show, and you can hear all the episodes with Monty, which will obviously be in the links. I'll put his Substack as well as his Twitter handle and all of his info, as I always do. And go out there and be a weeb, and be unafraid, to go against the mass. I think that is the most toxic part of fandom. I know I've been kind of hedging around it through this whole episode, but it has bothered me for a long time how even on the quote unquote based right, or whatever, the anime right, people always decide what you should like. I'm going to decide what I should like, because I think I know best. Like I know myself the best. So I encourage everyone listening to this, like, you don't have to be like me or like what I like, but go out there and like what you like and be cool with it.
These are creative muscles. You need to flex them. You need to build your taste. You need to build your repertoire. You need to find out what you like. And then, people will eventually start asking you for recommendations. And this is how like we pay it forward. Like in terms of, the collective history with any kind of niche interests and hobbies, the guys who have the first mover advantage always get exalted, but really the work is continued by continuing to flex these muscles and passing on what you've learned to the next person. And this is how we build the canon.
Mic drop.